Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Kim, and in today's video we're going to learn about the passive present in the Finnish language. This video is split into 10 chapters. In the first chapter we're going to learn what the passive is. Then in the second and third chapter we're going to learn how to form the passive present for the verb types 1 till 6 plus examples. In chapter 4 we are going to learn how to form the negative passive present, followed by chapter 5 where we are getting to know different ways of using the passive. In chapter 6 then we are going through many examples plus structures of sentences. Then in chapter 7 we will also learn more about the passive present and the consonant gradation. In chapter 8 we will figure out how to use an object in a passive sentence. Also here we have many examples. In chapter 9 we will kind of go through a contrast. That means we will see how very similar sentences can actually have very different meanings. At the end of this video we will, as always, go through some exercises plus solutions. So there's a lot on our agenda for today, but we try to keep it easy. So let's go. The passive is used when our agent is unspecified, so that means when we don't know who our doer is, and when only the action itself is important. The passive kinda corresponds to the English one, and it's also used for expressing activities that are simply common. For example, in schools one doesn't smoke. The passive appears a lot in the puhekieli language as the Finnish me form, which is the first person plural. And it's also used for making suggestions, for example for doing something together. Alright, we move on to chapter 2, how to form the passive present for verb type 1. Here is one example. Our verb is lukea. Lukea, which means to read, it belongs to verb type 1. Now, when we want to form the passive present out of it, we have to follow 3 steps. In the first step, we have to form the infinitive verb, which is lukea, and we receive luen. Then in the second step we have to remove the last letter N and we remain with lue. Then in the third step we add either tan or tan to it, depending on the vowel harmony. Here in our case it's lue plus tan and we receive luetaan, which means one reads. Let's see how it works in a sentence. Keitiossa luetaan lehtiä means in the kitchen one reads newspapers or newspapers are read in the kitchen. Keitiossa means in the kitchen. Luetaan here is our passive present verb. And lehtiä is partitive plural of the noun lehti, which means newspaper. Keitiossa luetaan lehtiä. Note that there can also appear the question, what if the stem ends up with a or ä? In such a situation, the a or ä changes to e. Here's one example. Ostaa means to buy. It belongs to verb type 1. In the first step, we have to form the infinitive verb to the first person singular, which is ostan. Then in the second step, we have to remove n and we remain with ostaa. So that means ostan changes to osta. Then in the third step, which makes by the way the difference, we have to replace the last a or ä with e. So that means osta changes to osta. And then in step number 4, which is our final step, we add tan or tan, depending on the vowel harmony. Here we have oste plus tan and we get ostetaan, which means one buys. Let's see how it works in a sentence. Kaupassa ostetaan ilmapaloja means either in a shop one buys balloons or balloons are bought in a shop. Kaupassa means in a shop. Ostetaan, here is our passive present. And ilmapaloja means balloons standing here in the partitive plural. Let's repeat. Kaupassa ostetaan ilmapaloja. Alright, we move on to the next chapter, forming the passive present for verb types 2 till 6. Here the only structure we have to follow is the infinitive verb plus either an or en, depending on the vowel harmony. Here's one example. Juoda means to drink. Now, when we want to form the passive present out of it, we take the infinitive verb, which is juoda, and we add an to it. So we have juoda plus an is juodaan, which means one drinks. Let's see how it works in a sentence. Suomessa juodaan paljon maitoa means in Finland one drinks a lot of milk or a lot of milk is drunk in Finland. Suomessa means in Finland. Juodaan is our passive present. Paljon means much or a lot. And maitoa is the partitive singular of maito, which means milk. Let's repeat. Suomessa juodaan paljon maitoa. Let's take another example. Maalata means to paint. Now we want to form the passive present. So that means we take maalata, which is our infinitive verb, and we also add an to it. So we have maalata plus an is maalataan, meaning one paints. Also here, let's see how it works in a sentence. Talo maalataan ensi viikolla means either the house is going to be painted next week or next week the house is going to be painted. Talo means house. Maalataan is here our passive present, and ensi viikolla means next week. Alright, we move on to chapter 4, how to form the negative passive present. Here the structure is a plus passive present but without the an or en. Let's take as an example the verb tarjota, which means to serve or to offer. In the first step, we have to remove either an or en, depending on the vowel harmony, from the passive present. So, the passive present of tarjota is tarjotaan. Now we have to remove the an ending and we get tarjota. Then in the second step, we add a in front of tarjota and we receive ei tarjota. Ei tarjota. This is our negative passive present. Let's see how it works in a sentence. Täällä ei tarjota olutta means either beer doesn't get served here or here beer doesn't get served. So täällä means here. Ei tarjota is our negative passive present and olutta means beer standing here in the partitive case. Let's repeat. Täällä ei tarjota olutta. Nice! We arrived at chapter 5. Now we are getting to know the different ways of using the passive in a sentence. Such a sentence can be started by a place, time, or an object. In such a case, we're talking about a no-subject passive. What that means we are going to see in a minute. Also important to know, the sentence can also start with a passive verb. Then we're talking about a suggestion. Or the sentence can also start with the me form. In that case, we're talking about the puhekieli version. Let's take a look at some examples. Montrealissa puhutaan englantia ja ranskaa means English and French are spoken in Montreal. Or in Montreal, one speaks English and French. So what happened in this sentence? This sentence starts with a place. Here it is Montrealissa, which means in Montreal. It's the inessive case. Then we have puhutaan, which is our passive present verb. Its basic form is puhua, which means to speak. Then we have englantia ja ranskaa, which means English and French, standing here in the partitive case because of the verb puhua. So let's repeat. Montrealissa puhutaan englantia ja ranskaa. Next one. Heinäkuussa mennään järven rannalle ja poimitaan mansikoita. Means in July one gets to the lake shore and collects strawberries. So let's go through it. Our sentence starts with time. So heinäkuussa means in July. It's the inessive case of the word heinäkuu, which means July. Then we have mennään, which is our passive present of the verb mennä, which means to go. Then we have järven rannalle, which means to the lake shore. So järven is the genitive case of järvi, which means lake, and rannalle means to the shore. It's the allative case of ranta, which means shore or beach. Ja means and poimitaan is our passive present of the verb poimia, which means to pick, and mansikoita is partitive plural of the noun mansikka, which means strawberry. So let's repeat. Heinäkuussa mennään järven rannalle ja poimitaan mansikoita. In July, one goes to the lake shore and collects strawberries. Alright, next one. Here we start with an object. Laukku avataan ja suljetaan vetoketjulla means the bag gets opened and closed by a zipper. So, laukku is standing here in the nominative case, or in other words, it's standing here in its basic form. Laukku, by the way, means bag. Avataan ja suljetaan are both verbs standing in the passive present. The basic forms are avata, which means to open, and sulkea, which means to close. And then we have vetoketjula, which means by a zipper. It's the adhesive case of vetoketju, which means zipper. Generally, when we want to say that we do something by a certain thing, may it be by a zipper or by a car or so on, then we use the adhesive case. Just as a side note. Let's repeat. Laukku avataan ja suljetaan vetoketjulla. The bag gets opened and closed by a zipper. Next one. Now we move on to suggestions, which means the sentence starts with a verb in the passive. Here's one example. A says, varataan liput Tukholmaan. And B answers, joo, varataan vaan. What does it mean? A says, let's reserve the tickets to Stockholm. And B answers, yeah, let's just reserve. So let's take a closer look at what A is saying. Varataan is the passive present of the verb varata, which means to reserve or to book. Liput means the tickets, it's the T plural, and we use it here because we're talking about specific tickets. So we are not talking about all the tickets, but we're talking about specific tickets. And Tukholmaan is the ilative case of Tukholma, which means Stockholm in Finnish. Now let's see what B is saying. He says, joo, varataan vaan. Joo means yes. Varataan we already covered, and vaan here can be understood as the agreeing to an idea, in the sense of, yeah, let's reserve, that's a good idea. Alright, so let's repeat. A says, varataan liput Tukholmaan. And B is saying, joo, varataan vaan. Let's reserve the tickets to Stockholm. Yeah, let's just reserve. Then we have some examples for the puhekieli version. We can, for example, say, me istutaan kahvilassa ja juodaan paljon kahvia. Means we're sitting in a coffee shop and are drinking a lot of coffee. This is the puhekieli version. Why? Because the sentence starts with the me form. So it's the puhekieli version. In kirjakieli we would say, me istumme kahvilassa ja juomme paljon kahvia. Means also the same, we're sitting in a coffee shop and are drinking a lot of coffee. Let's go quickly through it. Me istutaan kahvilassa means we're sitting in a coffee shop, and ja juodaan paljon kahvia means and we're drinking a lot of coffee. Let's do one more example. Me lähdetään baariin means we're going to the bar. Well, literally it means we're leaving to the bar. In kirjakieli we would say me lähdemme baariin, which also means the same. Alright, now we move on to chapter 7, the passive present and the consonant gradation. So, some verbs can be affected by the consonant gradation, and it's also important to know that the passive present always requires the weak grade. Here are some verbs like nukkua, which means to sleep. The passive present is nukutaan, and the negative form is ei nukuta. We use the weak version here. The double K from nukkua, infinitive verb, changes to 1K. Let's do two more examples. Ymmärtää means to understand. Here we also have the consonant gradation. RT changes to a double R. So in the passive present we have ymmärretään, and its negative form is ei ymmärretä. Then we have soittaa, which means either to call or to play an instrument. Here the consonant gradation is double T changes to 1T. So the passive present is soitetaan, and the negative one is ei soiteta. Alright, We move on to chapter 8, the object in a passive present sentence. Here the objects usually do appear in nominative, partitive, accusative, T-plural or partitive plural. Let's take a look at some examples. Vaasi pannaan pöydälle means the vase is put to the table. So vaasi here is our object and it's standing here in the nominative case, which is the basic form. Pannaan is our passive present verb. Its basic is panna, which means to put. And pöydälle means to the table. It's the allative case. Let's repeat. Vaasi pannaan pöydälle. The vase is put to the table. Next one. Itävallassa juodaan paljon viiniä means in Austria they drink a lot of wine, or a lot of wine is being drunk in Austria. So Itävallassa means in Austria. It's the inessive case of Itävalta, which means Austria. Juodaan is our passive present verb. Its basic form is juoda, which means to drink. Paljon here means a lot of, and viiniä means wine. It's standing here in the partitive case. Let's repeat. Itävallassa juodaan paljon viiniä means in Austria they drink a lot of wine, or a lot of wine is being drunk in Austria. Next one. Hänet tunnetaan hyvin means he or she is well known. So hänet here is our pronoun standing in the accusative case. Its basic form is hän, which means either he or she. Tunnetaan is our passive present verb. Its basic form is tuntea, which here means to know. Here we, by the way, have to pay attention to the consonant gradation. NT changes to a double N. And then we have hyvin, which is an adverb meaning well. Hänet tunnetaan hyvin. He or she is well known. Next one. Ikkunat suljetaan can be translated as the windows are closed or the windows are getting closed. So ikkunat is T plural because we're talking about specific windows. Not all the windows, but specific windows. And suljetaan is our passive present of the verb sulkea, which means to close. Ikkunat suljetaan. The windows are getting closed. Next one. Kahvilassa luetaan lehtiä can be translated as newspapers are read in a coffee shop, or one reads newspapers in a coffee shop. So kahvilassa means in a coffee shop. It's the inessive form of kahvila, which means coffee shop. Luetaan is here our passive present verb. Its basic form is lukea, which means to read. And lehtiä is partitive plural. Its basic form is lehti, which is short for newspaper. Let's repeat. Kahvilassa luetaan lehtiä. Newspapers are read in a coffee shop, or one reads newspapers in a coffee shop. Alright, we move on to chapter 9, which is our contrast. Here we see very similar sentences in the passive present, but with very different meanings. So let's go quickly through them. Me lähdetään baariin means we are going to the bar. This sentence is puhekieli because we have me starting the sentence. Next one, lähdetään baariin. This is a suggestion because it starts with a verb in the passive present. This one means let's go to the bar. And then we have baarissa tavataan ihmisiä. This is a no subject sentence and it means in the bar one meets people or people are met in the bar. And now we arrive at our last chapter, number 10, the exercises plus solutions. Here we have 13 verbs standing in their infinitive form, and the task is to form the passive present out of them. For each word we have 5 seconds. So let's go. Our first one is puhua, which means to speak. The passive present is... That's right, it's puhutaan. Puhutaan. Next one, nukkua, to sleep. The passive present is... Very good, it's nukutaan. Next one, lähteä, means to leave or to go away. The passive present is... Excellent, it's lähdetään. Next one, ottaa means to take. The passive present is very good. It's otetaan. Next one, that's a difficult one. Kirjoittaa means to write. The passive present is excellent. It's kirjoitetaan. Here we actually have to follow two rules. Next one, pitää. This one has many meanings. It can mean to hold, to keep, or to like. The passive present is nice. It's pidetään. Next one is voida, which means can. The passive present is, here's a little hint, it's verb type 2. That's right, it's voidaan. Voidaan. Next one, ajatella means to think. The passive present is very good. It's ajatellaan. Next one, tietää means to know. What is the passive present? Very nice. It's tiedetään. This is, by the way, again, verb type 1. Next one, haluttaa. Verb type 4 means to want. The passive present is great. Yeah, it's halutaan. Halutaan. Next one is tarvita. Verb type 5 means to need. The passive present is, yep, that's tarvitaan. Next one, antaa means to give. The passive present is very nice. It's annetaan. That was verb type 1. And our last one, verb type 6, vanhetaa. Vanhetaa means to age or to become older. Do you know the passive present? Excellent, it's vanhetaan. Very nice. That's it for today. I think I'm going to stop the video here. If you want to learn more Finnish, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day and see you next time.